going to show you how to make this little flower. I'll show you, you can do them in all kinds of colors. You can make them as a brooch. I put them on my headbands. I also make clusters of them, and I put them on hats. And they are made from scraps of jersey fabric. So it has to be a knit fabric, or it could be a remnant of a t-shirt. It's an excellent flower for using up little pieces of fabric that are otherwise too small to make anything else out of. So, for example, when I cut out my headbands or hats, I always end up with these little bits of odd-shaped fabric that if I didn't come up with a use for them, they would just end up in our waste stream, which we don't want. So because my source of scrap fabric seems to be endless and ever-growing, I figured if I taught you guys how to do this, it would be a little less waste than if I'm just keeping this all to myself. So here's how you want to start. You want to make your template, and I use cardstock. I'm using old business cards and hang tags, and you're going to make 9 little circles. So your first circle, I put a number on each one. My first circle is approximately 2.5 inches. Now, this is not set in stone. If you want to make a really big flower, start with a bigger template. So once you've traced out your first circle, you cut it out, and then I take that first circle and I trace it again, and then I just shave off a tiny little bit on my second one. So now what I have is our 2 circles. One is just a tiny bit, like, you know, maybe a 1/16 of an inch or a millimeter. And yeah, so this is the easiest way to do it. Now, once you have your second circle, you trace that one, and then you cut off, on your traced one, you cut off that tiny little millimeter or 2 millimeters, and now you've got 3. And you keep going like that. Trace your third, cut off a little bit of the traced one, and you've got 4. So every circle is just a tiny little bit smaller than the one that comes before. Now you have your templates. So then I head over to my scrap pile, and I always start using the biggest circle because you can often squeeze in the smallest ones in places where you couldn't squeeze in the largest. So I'll start with this little remnant right here, and I take a fabric marker. I keep these upside down with the largest one on top. I just place it on top of the fabric and trace it. I've also done this with chalk, with a chalk-a-liner, those rolling chalk markers. If I'm doing it on a dark fabric, I happen to have a light chalk-a-liner, so I use that. So now I've traced my one. That's my dog grumbling. That's my first one, so I place it over to the side, and let's see, here's my scissors. Then I'm going to just cut this one out. You won't have to sit and watch me cut every single one out, because this little flower does take quite some time. I think I've timed it at about 35 minutes, something like that, from start to finish. But it's very meditative. and it's sort of like being back in kindergarten. Just your little scissors and cut, cut, cut. So there we go. I don't really bother ironing the fabric because it's going to get so many slits in it that it doesn't actually make a difference. So there we go. I have my first one. Now, I doubt you can see this on the camera, but if you look at a knit jersey fabric, there are little ridges, tiny little ridges going in one direction. So just pay attention to that for later. So I'm going to put this one over to the side, and now I'm going to do the exact same thing with the other 8 circles and make a little pile, and then I will meet you back. Okay, I'm back. So here we have 9 little circles, each one a little bit smaller than the next. Now I am going to flip this pile over so that my largest one is on top. And you want to pay attention to which side has the little ridges and which side is smooth. So the little ridges is the front of your fabric. Now I'm looking at the circle with the ridges going completely up and down vertically. Now I'm going to fold the fabric in half. I've made a half circle, and then I'm going to fold it again. And I've made a little piece of pizza. So now what I have is one side that's folded twice, folded over itself here, and then this other side where you've got a fold here and a fold here. So I go over to the side that just has the 2 folds. I take my scissors and I snip down the middle, but I don't go right to the bottom. I've left ½ an inch or something like that. You don't want to go too far or the fabric becomes too flimsy to hold together. You need a sort of center of this flower. Now I head over to the other side, and I'm going to cut down one of the folds, also to about ½ an inch or so, and then to the other side. Now I keep it folded, and I cut down through all layers of the folded circle to about the same point. And then now I've got these 2 parts here, and I'm going to cut in between one of them. And then I'm going to cut in between the next one. All right, now I'm going to open the circle up, and ta-da! Okay, but we're not done yet because we want to make these little petals even thinner. So between every one, we're going to cut it in half. Sometimes you'll find that one petal came out super thick and another one very thin. So sometimes I will go twice through on one petal if I feel that it could get even thinner. It's just a judgment call. This is not an exact science. Let's say here, I think that's quite a wide one, so I'm going to give it an extra little cut there. There. So now when I lay this down, I'm going to lay it down so that the lines are going up and down. Straight up and down. Okay, now I'm going to take my second circle and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm orienting which way the lines are going, which is the right side. And I fold it in half. I fold it in half again. I go to the side with just 2 layers. I snip down the middle to about 1/2 inch. I then turn it over. I snip through those 2 layers, and I snip through these 2 layers. I snip through the center, cut that in half, and cut this in half, and I open it up, and then I'm ready to snip down the center of each little petal. I think they'd be called petals. For some reason, I find this quite fun. I'm not sure everybody would, but if you like doing mindless, methodical tasks that keep your brain from contemplating pandemics or the end of the world in some other way, this is just the perfect thing to do. Okay, so now the first one I laid with the little ridges going vertically, but the next one I'm going to lay it on top of that one with the ridges going horizontally. So the difference in sizes between them are very subtle. So each one, you almost can't see it, but it's just a tiny bit smaller than the other. So now I'm going to continue cutting out the rest of the circles in the same way. And each one I'm going to lay, so now that this one's horizontal, the next one's going to go vertical, the next one horizontal, vertical. So you will end with a vertical one because you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9 would be vertical. But, you know, if you made a mistake, don't worry about it. Okay, so I will meet you back here when I get to the last circle. Okay, here we are on our last circle. So I'm going to do this last one. And in case you are wondering why, when you lay out the circles, they have to go in different directions, vertical and horizontal, it's because knit fabrics curl in one direction. So when you alternate the way that they are laid out, the curls are balanced and it creates a balanced flower. Otherwise, you would have the top and bottom curling up towards each other. Okay, almost done. Now, I just passed one that was quite thin, so I decided to not cut that one because you don't want it to break off. So, like I've said, this is not an exact science. You can make little mistakes or have it not be completely even and still come out perfectly fine, which is my kind of flower. And there. Okay, that one I'm going to go a little deeper. All right, here we go. So this one is going to be laid out vertically. Now I have this beautiful little cluster here, and I'm going to take a needle and thread. I've knotted the bottom. I grab the flower between my thumb and forefinger, I make sure that the little petals are out of the way so I'm not going to catch them. And I go from the back of the flower through the front and gently pull the thread up and then put it back through. Make sure, see, it wants to loop around those little cut petals. Just gently get them out of the way and pull. And repeat that, just making little tiny tacks. Keep the petals out of the way. And yeah, you want to do this several times so that the flower is secure. Always watching which way the thread is traveling. It probably is good to not have quite as long a piece of thread as I have, but at least I'm showing you what can happen and how to get out of the mess. So just keep watching the thread as it goes down so it doesn't catch. And there you have it. It ends up like really curling up into itself, and it makes this adorable little flower. I'm gonna actually give it a few more tacks after you guys go away. So yeah, now I would just want to quickly show you the book that this came out of, which is from the early 1920s. It's a beautiful book, and it has all these fabric flowers in here and embroidery. It's called Decorative Stitches and Trimmings by the Women's Institute of Domestic Arts and Sciences from Scranton, Pennsylvania. My wonderful sister-in-law Amy gave me that book as a gift several years ago. In the book, this flower is called an aster, and they say to use a purple fabric, but people have called it a carnation, or I like to call it a zinnia because I love zinnias. So whatever you want to call it, that's fine. It's just a beautiful flower, and it uses up quite a bit of these little fabric scraps. So yeah, waste not, want not. So I hope you've enjoyed that tutorial. If you'd like to learn about me and my hats and what I do, you can check out my website. It's www.hatjunkie.com, and I'll put that in my description box. And you can follow me on Instagram. It's at the Hat Junkie, HATJUNKIE. All right, take care. Bye.